Okay, Parshas Lecha, page 3. This is a maimer the Alter Rebbe said, Parshas Lecha, Yud Mar Cheshvan, Tov Kuf Samach Zayin, 1806, in Liadi. Okay, just to give you the Nekudas HaMaimer, the point that the Alter Rebbe is going to address. So obviously, as we are familiar with the Chassidish Parsha, gives us the deeper insight into what we're reading about in the Parsha. But from a superficial and Nigla perspective, we read in the Parsha about Avraham Avinu and everything that Avraham Avinu went through from going out, from the Eibishter telling him to go out of Haran until at the end of the Parsha we have the commandment of Mitzvah Milah. As the Rebbe Rashab is brought down in Ayim Yom, the Rebbe Rashab says that it's a Lecha parsha, right? Lecha parsha because the whole week, as opposed to the last 2 weeks, the whole week we live with Avraham Avinu. So the whole parsha is all about Avraham Avinu's journey. So the Alter Rebbe is gonna explain this. The idea, the journey of Avraham Avinu was actually a preparation for Matan Torah. So what Avraham Avinu was doing was, it says, Maisav is similar banim. Alter Rebbe doesn't bring that specific point, but Maisav is similar banim. So that what the Avis did, and specifically now Avraham Avinu, was all a preparation for Matan Torah. As it's described in the Gemara, there was the Alpayim Shana, 2,000 years before Avraham Avinu was Toyu. That was the period of Toyu. And from Avraham Avinu, which culminated with the giving of the Torah, began the 2,000 years of Tikkun. So the idea of the journey of Avraham Avinu was a preparation for that. So you can ask, why do we need Avraham Avinu? He says the Eibusha created the world. What is Avraham Avinu? What's Avraham Avinu contributing to that? As we're going to see, Avraham Avinu is part of a Seder in Seder Ishtalshtus, a descent from a very high level to a very low level. Why that the Seder Ishtalshtus itself, that the fact that Hashem created the world, that itself was creation and was a descent, Ishtalshtus, from the higher realms to the lower realms. And the idea is, the Alter Rebbe mentions it, and it's elaborated in other places, that when the Eibusha created the world, as we know this from a different language, but it's the same Nekuda, that the Eibusha, what was the Kavanah? The Kavanah was Dira B'Tachteinim. But the Dira B'Tachteinim, that Hashem wanted a dwelling place below, that's something that needed to be accomplished through our Aveda. But what is the integral ingredient in a Dira B'Tachteinim is that we should make a keli, we should make the world that it should be able to be a vessel, it should be able to be susceptible to receive the presence of Hashem, which is through Aveda, through Torah mitzvahs. So before Matan Torah, or before the idea of what Matan Torah represents, which is the fusion of those two things coming together, the Elyonim and Tachtonim. So then the Hashem created the world, but everything was very, very limiting. There was a tzimtzum. and the tzimtzum means that there was an existence of world, but the world was a yesh, and separate. It felt itself separate from godliness. So the idea of the Aveda, Torah mitzvahs, and what Avraham Avinu is doing is bringing that together, bringing the Elyonim and the Tachtenim together. So that the culmination of that is Torah mitzvahs. But Avraham Avinu began that process. So the Maimed Al Rebbe will explain is more specifically what exactly took place and how Avraham Avinu began that process. Now, with Avraham Avinu, it culminated in mitzvahs milah. In other words, mitzvahs milah there was in the micro. In other words, within the journey of Avraham Avinu himself. So it went through the transformation and the transition from going from the beginning of this week's parsha, Lech Lecha, where he's called Avram, to the end of the parsha where he's called Avraham, which and through mitzvahs milah. So that was in the micro. That was the journey of Avraham Avinu. In the bigger picture, this culminated by Matan Torah. Okay, that's one nekuda that Alter Rebbe will explain and bring us through, and the psukim also. And the second nekuda is that in order to break the barriers of these limitations, we said there's a limitation that there couldn't be prevented, that there should be a gilui, a revelation, an expression of getlichkeit, of godliness. So in order to do that, you have to bring it down from a very high place. And as a mashal for that, when you have a rav and a talmid, a teacher and a student, so dafka, not every teacher is able to explain and bring down the information to a very low level, right? Some people can only explain it or teach it to people, like-minded people. But to really bring it down to a child, to someone who's inferior, in much more inferior in their understanding, so requires a depth. You have to take it from a much higher place. You have to take the idea, the seichel, from a place which there is no limitation or less limitation, and then it allows it to be disseminated and to be taught, and for the flow to happen even at a much lower place. So Avraham Avinu, so the Rebbe will connect this idea, and he brings the mashal. He brings, for example, Shlomo Melech, who was able to bring it down 3,000 mashalim, 3,000 levels. That was the idea that Shlomo Melech was the Chacham Mikol Adam, that he was able to break all the different barriers that it should, and allow it to, and share this idea even to a level 3,000 levels below him. So he was right. The limitation was broken. The barriers were broken. And so this is the idea of Avraham Avinu, that Avraham Avinu, the ability that Avraham had to go from and descend even into this world, into the lower levels, came from a higher place. Like it says, Kol HaGavei Yeser, this is the same idea. Anything which is higher can go much lower. Right? And there's different examples of that. So these are the two main points that the Maimer will address. Okay, let's learn inside. So Inyan Lech Lecha Vayelech L'Masov. So the Maimer will address the concept of Lech Lecha Vayelech L'Masov. So the journey of Avraham Avinu. So he writes in parentheses. You have inyan Lech Lecha v'yirech l'masa mimata l'mayla or mimayla l'mata. You have both. You have what was mimata l'mayla, which is the Aveda coming from below, ascending above, and then you have the Amshacha mimayla l'mata, from above below. And then you have L'Hashem Anira, L'Hashem Stam. Mimata l'mayla is, there's Hashem Anira, which that is, when the first time Avraham Avinu built the Mizbeach, it says Hashem Anira Elav, Hashem will appear to him. So the appearance shows on the appearance of Hashem, but in a finite, more finite manner. L'Hashem Stam means that it's beyond limitation. So the ascent from below to above, from Hashem Anira to Hashem Stam. Okay, now in the let's go into the details. So Hine Avram, the concept of Avram is Seichel, is, if you take the words Avram, so is Seichel Anela Mikol Rayin. So it's referring to a level of Seichel which is completely concealed from any, it's unfathomable. Avram, the Alter Rebbe explains, Avram, Av is Chachma, but what level in Chachma is it? It's the Ram. Chachma is different levels. You have Chachma of Atzilus, if you connect it to spheres. Chachma of Atzilus, then you have Chachma which is higher than Atzilus. Or we read in Pasach Eliyahu, there's Chachma, which is Chachma Yediyah, and then you have Chachma, which is not Chachma Yediyah. More specifically, refers to Chachma of Chachma Stima, which is Chachma of Keseh. Okay, it's called Chachma Stima. So we talk about Avram, we're talking about a level of Avram. V'tzorich, and being that it's such a high level, it's a level of Seichel Anelam, Avram, so tzorich lahamshicha v'chenas gilui. So that the idea of Hashem, the kavana of why Hashem created the world is that there should be a gilui lamata, that there should be a dira b'tachtonim, right? Like we said, that's what we said before in the introduction. The beginning of that is that there should be a hamshacha from Avram to the mata. V'tzarech lamshicha v'chinas gilui. Dahainu. Li is seder ishtalshlos, that there should be a seder ishtalshlos. Mibchinas chakim lebechach me'ediyah. From that level of lebechach me'ediyah, which is the higher level of chachma, v'chinas yirida v'madrega l'madrega tzeichel. V'atachlis. The purpose is liyas gilui b'biyah, that the Avram, the Chachma, which is a gilui of the Eibishter, a gilui of Chachma, which is loy b'chachma yediyah, the higher level of Chachma, that it should be nizgala, it should be revealed in biyah. How is it nizgala? How is it revealed in biyah? So you have Gan Eden, Elyon, V'tachten. When it says Nen in Miziv HaShechina, so Nen in Miziv HaShechina means that there's a Gilui beyond. It's not the same Gilui as you have. The world, the Olam, the Gan Eden Elyon is in the world of Bria. It talks about Svarim, it talks about two levels of Gan Eden. Gan Eden Elyon and Gan Eden HaTachten. Gan Eden Elyon is an Olam HaBria, and Gan Eden HaTachten is an Olam HaYitzira. But what's unique about Gan Eden? What's unique about Gan Eden is that there's a Gilui Alikus, that the Neshamas in Gan Eden, it's beyond in Olam HaBria itself, in Olam HaYitzira itself, it's concealed. There's more Gilui, there's more awareness than you have in Olam HaAsiyah. But it's limited, it's an Olam. It's a nivra. It's a creation. But Gan Eden is nan in miziva shchina. There you have a gilui, which is a gilui alikus. And this gilui alikus, this godliness which is being revealed in Olam Habriya, i.e. Gan Eden Elyon, or in Olam Hayitzira, i.e. Gan Eden Atachten, this is the gilui of Chachma, which is the level of Chachma, which is lo yediyah. There's the Chachma Yedua, and then there's Chachma, which is lo b'Chachma Yediyah, which means higher than Chachma of Hishtalshelus, which in Spheris means Chachma of Keser. And the Gilui of that's the Gan Eden Elyon and Gan Eden Atachten, which is Tainug and Ivroim, Sheyuchel Lekaba Gilui HaTainug. That's they're basking in the Tainug of Elikus, of godliness. That's this Gilui. So you have the idea, the Puma Da'ama. The Puma Da'ama is the Bris Milah. The Bris Milah, that's when we see Pasach Elio, so each one of the spheres are connected with a different part of the body. Chesed, Gevura. Yisoid, the Mashpia, Yisoid is connected with the milah, with the circumcision, the place of circumcision. That's what the Zohar calls Puma Da'ama. So every hashpah comes from, when it comes hashpah from the Elyon to the Tachten, from the higher, from the Mashpia to the Mekabel. So the hashpah comes through Yisoid, which is the bris milah. The Yisoid is the cornerstone of the hashpah, is the connection between the mashpia and the mekabel. So here we're talking about a gilui, milamayla lemata, from seichel hanelam, from chakim v'lei b'chachmi yediyah. So it comes through chesed. Chesed is hashpah, and it comes b'puma da'ama to yisoid, liyes gili hashpah b'chenes iskashus. That's the gilui that it should be in an oifen of iskashus. V'hu yeshiv Pesach ha'oil from Parshas Vayera. So Pesach ha'oil is malchus. V'hu yeshiv Pesach ha'oil. He's sitting in the Pesach ha'oil means the gilui. So it's in other words, it's describing this. It's describing this descent from Chachma v'lei b'Chachma Yediyah, from Avram until Malchus. Gilui zeh hu ayidei tzimtzumim v'helem. In order there should be able to be this gilui, there has to be tzimtzum and helem. V'b'chinas choshech di Yitzchak. So, if there wouldn't be tzimtzum v'helem, then it wouldn't be able to be contained at all. It would be like it says, if there's too much gilui, so everything wouldn't be able to handle, it would dissipate. So in order that there should be the gilui, that it should be felt, that it should be able to be a keli, and the keli should be able to receive the gilui, so you have to have the union of gvura. What's that? That's Yitzchak. So in other words, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, that was all necessary in order that there should be able to be contained. And that's what it says. Vayera vayivoker yom echad, kedei liyis b'chinas yesh, uba yi yom echad. So in order that there should be able to be a yesh. But what does it mean, to be a yesh? To be a yesh mamish, that there should mamish be a yesh, and it should be separate from and feel itself separate completely from the Eibishter, so that you don't need the others. That was what happened Bereshis bara Elokim when Hashem created the world. So there was a yesh. Over here we want that the yesh should be able to be batal, that the yesh should be able to receive the ayin, that the yesh should be able to receive and be aware of the oneness of the Eibishter, and because of its awareness to be batal to Hashem, So for that, you need the office. You need the avodah of the office. So that's what it says by Yerev, Vayivoker Yom Echad. So what's the way the Alter Rebbe explains that pasuk? Besides the literal meaning, that it was evening and it was morning and it was day one, but the Alter Rebbe explains, in order that you should have Yom Echad, in order that you should be able to feel and bring down the Achdus Hashem, the oneness of the Eibishter, so there has to have gone through the Erev. You have to go through the Tzimtzum, and only through the Tzimtzum can then the Gilui be felt in the recipient, and then he can receive the idea of Echad, the concept of Echad. What is that? What is the Echad? The Alter Rebbe says, Sheyi Hayesh Batel. Yeah, Echad means that the Yesh is Batel. The Hainu Sheyi Bechinas Yesh U Batel. Okay. But that it should be that this Gilui should be able to take place. So tzarich liyos mitzvah mila. So in order to have that, you have to have the mitzvah of mila, lahasir arla. The idea of mitzvah mila is to remove the arla, to remove the foreskin. Mila actually there's two parts to the mitzvah of mila. The first part of the mitzvah is to remove the arla, to remove that separation, and the second part of the mitzvah of milah is to reveal the gilui. That's the two aspects. So here he's talking about the first part of that. In order that there should be able to be this gilui, in order that you should have, that the yesh should be batel la'ayin, that there should be a gilui of achdus, of oneness, and that will bring about that the yesh is batel. So for that, there had to be the mitzvah of milah. What is the arla? Arla he klipas neigach ifefes. That is the klipa which surrounds. Shelo yiyelo yinika. So you have to remove it. Why do you have to remove it? So there shouldn't be a yinika. There shouldn't be any nourishment that is given to the klipas. So in order to prevent that, you have to remove the klipa. You have to remove the arla. You can't receive the gilui, this gilui that we're trying to. Which gilui? The gilui of that the yesh should be batel, the gilui of achdus, that it should be this awareness, as long as it's still there. Ki'im keshir chayusa. The only amount it can only receive is just what is the minimal amount, in order that it should be alive. In other words, just like we said, with creation, that everything existed, there was an existence of life, but that was only enough to sustain existence. Over here, what we want to accomplish is that there should be a dir b'tachteinu. We want to accomplish that there should be a gilui, that there should be a gilui of achdus Hashem in the world. For that, the arla has to be removed. And that's why after mitzvahs milah, after Avram Avinu removed the arla, he removed the klipa, then it says Av Hamoin Goyim, that he's now the father of many nations. What does it mean he's the father of many nations? What does that have to do with Avram Avinu now became connected with other nations, not the Yidden? He's one of the forefathers of the Yidden. He was the first. So what does it mean? Avamin goyim. So in the context of what we're explaining now, that what does it mean avamin goyim? Over here, goyim means nitzotzes. The nation refers to all the different nitzotzes that are in the world. Avram Avinu, as a result of removing the arla, so now he's able to elevate. So now the world can receive this gilui of achdus, yom echad. So the koyach habirur, the elevation that takes place is a result of this gilui. The gilui meaning the gilui that came after bris milah. says tzaddikim are like, what are they like? B'fnei Ashchina, kiner b'fnei avuka. The tzaddikim are like a candle in front of a torch. They're using a mashal of a candle and a torch, that the flame of the candle gets sucked in, absorbed into the flame, into this larger flame of the torch. So the small flame is referring to the nitzutz, and the nitzutz is hidden. But when there's a avuka, so then it gets absorbed within the larger flame. Shenechnolim b'chinas bittul b'avuka, and then v'amru galu ladim shchina imayim. The shchina is also just like tzaddikim. What do we say? Tzaddikim is like the shchina. The shchina is galu la'adim. It's an exile in Adam and all the different places. The point is, why? In order to add gerim, to add converts. What do we mean when we say converts here in this context? We're referring to all these netzitzes, all these hidden shards of godliness which are concealed, that now become revealed, that become drawn into the avuka, into the shechina. And that's the process that takes place. That happens after Avraham Avinu fulfills the mitzvah of Milah. And the food and drink that now are elevated because of the Gila Ashchina, they are elevated. Okay, so now, the Alter Rebbe gives us several nekudas, and now he goes and with keys, with now we can use to explain the parsha. The Zewinian parsha zu. This is now that you have that information. So now let's see it in the parsha itself. So it says Vayemer Hashem al Avram. That's the first pasuk in the parsha. Hashem said to Avram, and we said, what is Avram? Avram, as we defined before. What did Hashem say to Avram? Hashem is the Maitzel, is the emanator. Tells this level of Chachma, v'lei b'chachma yediyah, which is absolute bittul, higher than ishtalshalos. But we wanted that to come into the world, into ishtalshalos. So he says, he says, Lech Lecha, that it should go down. And the point, the purpose of that is that there should be elevate the world. Before Avram was the world of Toyu. That's Shviras HaKelim. So from Avram begins Olam Atika, which, like we said, culminates with Matan Torah. So what does Hashem say to Avram? Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha, Yitzias Shema Metaken Mavar. Lech Lecha is that the Shema, what Shema is the way you spell Yud Kei Vav Kei with the Aleph, adds up to 45, which is connected with Tikkun, connected with the Indian of elevating the world. So Lech Lecha, it should go out and be metaken and mavar the world. V'tzorech liyos yirida achar yirida. It should need one descent after the other. Me Avram, from the level of Avram, which we said is Yisoid Abba. That's the Yisoid of Chachma. Ad, the Yerida is ad till the end of the pasuk. Ela Oretz Asher Areka. What's Oretz? Oretz is Mechinas Malchus. Asher Areka, which I will show you. So Asher Areka has two pirushim. Ela Oretz Asher Areka is the first one is Areka is going on the Oretz. That the Oretz which is where is the Aretz, which I will show you, which that is the level of Malchus. Then Areka also means that I will show you. You yourself will be shown. Ashareka Pirush, through the Yerida, Arev Agala Oischa Ba'atzmecha. You will be revealed from being in a state of Avram, which we said Avram is hidden and concealed. So now El Oretz Ashareka, that through this you will be, it will be revealed Avram's Avram his inyan, which is Chachma. Kolomer Sha'ata Tavil Dei Hiskalos b'mitzvah Mila, through the mitzvah of Mila, which that we said was the Gilui, through the mitzvah Mila, that's what brought about the Gilui. V'hoya Shimcha Avram Avamin Goyim, which that's the culmination of when he becomes Avraham Avamin Goyim, when he elevates. Now that there's a Gilui, so that brings up that all the nitzotzes, all the sparks should be able to be elevated. That's what we call Goyim. So here the Alter Rebbe is translating it in the words of the concept that we said before. He's showing us how the flow in the parsha. So according to this, he Yerida. So now, based on this, the Chorah to Yerida, Avram Avinu is descending, May Avram to Avram. But it seems that, so in other words, Avram seems to be, based on this, a lower level. From Avram, is what we said is referring to a high level of Chachma, of which level? Chakim Leba Chachmidia, to the level of Avram. But as Alter Rebbe will say, from the lashon, when it seems that when Avraham Avinu's name is changed, it's not a chisaron. It's a lower level, but it's a higher level. That he's adding a hey, meaning that it's coming from a higher place, not a lower place. Right, based on what we said, but now so Avraham is lower than Avram. It's a descent, but Lechura, it seems from the simple pshat in the pasuk that your name is not going to be anymore Avram, it's going to be Avram, that it's a maila, not a chisar. And here the Alter Rebbe will explain the idea that in order to have, that's what we said when we started out in the introduction, that in order to have this yerida, in order to have this descent, it comes from a much higher place. Just like as we brought the mashal to be able to explain something to a child, so it comes from a much deeper place within the mashpia. Which hay are we talking about? Who hey la? This refers to the hey la. Hey la is bina. So the hey that is being added to Avram Avinu's name is bina. And what is bina? Bina really is higher in a certain aspect. Bina is higher than Chachma. So in other words, it's higher than Avram. Avram is Chachma. Avraham is Bina. But Bina is higher than Chachma. What's the maila of Bina over Chachma? So for here, the Alter Rebbe brings the Zohar. The Zohar says, V'avad al-Leviyu. So there, the Zohar explains what is the Aveda of Levi. The Aveda of Levi is connected with the level of who. What's who? Who is Nister. Means it's third person, it's hidden. That's the level of Bina. Who? Da'atika. That the Atika means that Bina is connected with Atik. She's Galus Atik who Bina dafke v'lei b'chachma. Atik is Tainug. The Tainug, where is Tainug revealed? Tainug revealed is specifically in Bina, not in Chachma. Why not? What's the difference between the Chachma and Bina? So Alter Rebbe says, Ki Chachma nikre Eden. Chachma is called Eden, not Gan Eden, but Eden. The Ein Sham is Galus Atik, and being that Chachma is only an Ekuda, just like Chachma begashmis. When you have a Chachma, you have an idea. The thought, the idea that comes to your mind is like a baraka mavrik. It's like a flash. That flash doesn't carry within a tainuk because it's not. It's still too abstract. Where is the tainuk come? Where is the enjoyment and the feeling of elation that one gets? Is only after that idea that he has is developed, and then he sees the intricacies and the concepts that come as a result of that flash. So where is the Gilui HaTainuk? Where does that happen? That happens in Bina. Atik is Tainuk. Where is Atik? Where is that connected with? Where is that revealed? That's Tafkin Bina. Shasham is Galas Atik. Ki Atik, the Alter Rebbe explains. Ki Atik hu Mikor HaTanugim. Atik is the source of Al Tainuk. V'Tainuk hu l'mayla min HaChachma. U'b'Chachma atzma, in Chachma shehi b'chinas nekuda adayin, lo ba lidei gilui, the Tainuk is not nizgala ki ima yidei bina, which is called also in Zohar nekuda behechala. The heichal is nekuda behechala. Just from a technical standpoint, the heichal is a chamber, and then you have the which is bina. You take this idea, this inspiration, this flash, and it becomes a whole heichal. It becomes a whole concept. But within that heichal, you have the nekuda. That's the source. Where did that? What was the beginning of that process? That was the nekuda, or nekeva t'seviv gover. Nekeva is the heichal, bina the hay, which is t'seviv gover. It surrounds the gover. This is the mashpia, which the mashpia in this context is chachma. Shemekabeles, now the bina receives ha'aras atika, the aura of Atik. That's where now Atik becomes revealed. V'inyan kenoida shaliyos ispashtus. So there we just before the Alter Rebbe that's the technically the bina has the gilui of Atik more than chachma. In other words, bina is connected to a place. Bina is higher than chachma. Mitzad its shirish, from its where it stems from. Now the Alter Rebbe, the Inyan here, the Alter Rebbe will explain what's the logic. Why is it that bina, which the chura chachma and seder ishtalshus is higher than bina? So why is it that bina takes from a place which is even higher than a chachma? So the logic of that is, like we said before in the introduction, that's in order to bring it down to a place. What further needs to be brought down? So it has to come from a place which doesn't have any of those limitations, as he's going to say in a second. From a higher place. In order to understand this, in other words, what does that mean? That in order to bring it down to a lower place, it has to come dafka from a higher place, from a place which is beyond limitation. So in order to understand that, he brings from Shlomo Melech, Vayidaber Shloishes Alaf Mashal, that Shlomo Melech spoke 3,000 Mishalim. Just like we see, Shachacham, even though he knows himself the Chachma, but he can't explain this Chachma to someone else. Before he's able to explain it, he has to connect his mind to the concept, very, very strong, and to figure out how to bring it down into a place, a lower place. And what does it mean he's bringing it down to a lower place? He gives it a mashal, which the mashal is something that the recipient can relate to, and only then can he use that as a vehicle through which he can convey this very, very deep concept. He can find an example of this idea in a lower place, and only through that is he able to connect it and convey it to the recipient. That for this, in order to be able to do that, you need a chacham gadol. A regular chacham can't do it. You need a chacham gadol. That's in general. You need a chacham gadol. Rak shleima melech alav v'shalom. With his superior level of bina, as Yachol imtze shleish alaf mash, he was able to find 3,000 mashalim. The hainu gimel alaf madrega shlemati menu. 3,000 levels. He's bringing it down, not 3,000 mashalim on the same. Why do you need 3,000 mashalim for? If you understand it with one mashal, why do you need to bring the 3,000 mashalim? Each mashal was a mashal on the mashal, and the mashal on the mashal, in order to bring it down 3,000 levels. Gam shama yachalim tzilai. So such a place so far, so low, so distant from the original point. That's what Alter Rebbe says. In order to be able to bring it down, that's Avraham was not a Yerida, but it was actually a Maila, that it comes from a higher place, even higher than Chachma. Okay. The second part of the Maimer, the Alter Rebbe will then, after he explains it regarding Avraham Avinu, then he explains it in Avodas Hashem, how this all relates, these two concepts. Number one, the Yerida from going from Avram and into Malchus and further, and the idea that it comes from a higher place, how that also connects with Torah and mitzvahs that we do. That's the second part of the Maimer.